Okay, hello there, guys. K-Rad here. I wasn't able to get my intro going, but I'll probably do that another time. But today, I got like a little live show for today to talk about libertarianism with a particular friend that I had on the channel, that being Scott. His YouTube channel name goes by Libertarian Views as Scotty. But yeah, like I'm gonna have him on today, and then I'll get to the boxing conversations later on today. But yeah, for now, I'm gonna get Scott on, and then we'll get right to everything later on. So I got Scott here, and here we go. Hey, how's it going, Scott?
How are you doing?
Doing good. How's everything with you?
Aye, not too bad, pal. I was at work earlier on, but bloody heat here in Scotland, it's no normal anyway, put it that way.
Really? Is that hot over there?
It's hit 29 degrees here, like for here in Scotland.
29 degrees? Man, that's just, wow. Yeah, it's like at least like 85 to like 90 degrees here in New York.
Aye. You're used to that weather though, you know what I mean? Plus the fact you get aircon.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't try to run the air conditioner too much, but if I have to, then I usually try to keep everything cool, because it gets like humid, and then it's like you have to like go inside with the shower like every 2-3 hours just to like cool off.
I can understand.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for coming on, and yeah, like I just wanted to talk about various topics that I had on my mind. I wanted to kind of pick up from last time that I guess like we had like a lot of conversations like about how everything works in terms of like what like a lot of governing like institutions have done within the past couple years within statism, and like hashing back within our libertarian conversations. I wanted to kind of like basically like rehash like what's been going on throughout like the past couple years as of recently heading into like what's happening due to current like events.
I can understand, especially with the recent events, and especially to with the the populist movement, and I seen it coming a mile off with their disappointment and everything. You know what I mean? I seen that coming a mile off. I knew right away. People just don't. They just continue to fall for the same thing on and on and on. They never learn. That's why I don't have faith in the political system. I don't have faith in these political parties. Even this rhetoric about reform here in the United Kingdom and that, because reform for the first time, or a party for the first time other than Conservatives or Labour, could break that and get into government, but seeing is believing, actions speak louder than words. I mean, how often have you seen this when it's like those promises are always broken and yeah, fuck, you're seeing that. You're seeing that currently with Donald Trump.
Yeah. I'm gonna lower gas prices, as soon as I get into office.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. I was actually gonna talk about Donald Trump because I found it hilarious with that crazy government spending bill that just got passed. Into
It's insane, man. Especially straight after the fact that he found all that money that was gone to waste. You there was that wee bit of hope. You know what I mean? Because you were thinking to yourself, "Oh wow, he's really going to do something," and all that money that was going to waste, and that was being fun at the time. But then he comes out with all this stuff about the big beautiful bill, and I was like, "Oh my god, man, he's just proved me right." And I didn't want to be proved right. You know what I mean? Now that way, you kind of you wish to be proved wrong because, well, your objective is to see the government being cut. And what people need to understand is, what people need to realise, it's all well speaking the rhetoric about tax cuts, but that's tax cuts in face only. Because see, once you go down the road of all that spending, government expenditure is a hidden form of tax. It's basically a tax on your savings.
Yeah.
Inflation. And that's because let's face it, where's the money going to come from in order to pay for, the 3.3 trillion that that so-called big beautiful bill? It's not exactly beautiful, is it? not the people down the line. It's just diabolical, man. And the fact that it was Trump of all people has just really been a big, huge slap right across the face of people, because when you think about it, when it comes down to the political system and people voting, it felt like that was the last hope. It's not really, but I would hope that it's woken a number of people up to the reality. You know what I mean? I would hope that that's the case.
Yeah. I just think personally with me, I think this is just the evolution of like any massive big government, status economy coming to like a failure. If anything, it's kind of like I don't know if you can like agree, but like with what Trump did, I think he did the same thing what FDR did with his a big New Deal plan, and I think this is going to lead into another financial collapse. But this
At least when it came to Herbert Hoover, he later conceded that he was wrong. You know what I mean? At least he.
Yeah.
I think it was just incompetence when it came to Herbert Hoover, because by the time he was finished, he regretted it. He learned his lesson. It failed, and he changed.
Yeah, he caused it.
Aye, and when it came to the likes of FDR, different story, man. He was someone who actually admired Nazi Germany's style of economy. Right? In other words, he was straight. He was an out-and-out corporatist, man.
Just a straight up evil piece of crap.
aye, basically. And you're right in what you say though, because let's face it. See, once, and I've even stated this, and it's the same thing on the argument of Scottish independence and that, because you still get the arguments propping up about Scottish independence. I've stated before that, I don't care whether Scotland remains or not. To me, it's not so much to do with whether Scotland's in or out the United Kingdom. It's about the direction of the economy. And I've stated to people time and time again, they're complaining about a self-serving government, and this obviously goes on to the point that you just raised about governments having so much influence, because it's true, because they're complaining about a self-serving government in Westminster, but they continue to support and are adamant in protecting things like state-run healthcare, state-run education, state-run fire service, state-run police, the government funding and providence of welfare and social security for the pensions and stuff. They don't understand that it was through gaining the government that much power and influence. It was inevitable that the government was always going to go in the path of its own. That was always going to be the case. It was never going to be any different. The government was always going to go in the path of its own, and people don't learn that lesson. People just, for whatever reason, they just don't learn that lesson. And it's the same thing in the United States. And I've seen this, and this is the sad part, right? When you look through the conservative movement, and I've been on, I've stated this before, I've been on several groups and things like that, like Turning Point USA and all that, these conservative movements. And you get these commenters, and I stated to them, capitalism is about the separation of the economy from the government, right? I stated that to them. And these so-called conservatives were ridiculing me over that. They were saying, what was it? Something to do with too much, and it leads to chaos, and therefore
too much capitalism equals chaos. BS.
Exactly, and therefore, in their argument, you need
a free market must exist with the state.
Aye. And so their argument was, we need a well-regulated capitalism. Well, there's no such thing. They're basically coming out and saying, hi everybody, I'm a corporatist.
So basically, they're gonna conflate, like they're gonna conflate government imperialism with capitalism to say,
exactly.
Basically, the only way that I'm only ever to live in a good world is because that the state isn't, basically a governing institution is only here to create all these violent laws and policies to keep me safe. So therefore, the only reason why capitalism is here is simply because of that.
Exactly. It's just it's absolute madness. It's crazy. It's crazy. And they can't see that it was through their support. It's just like right now, even after what Donald Trump has done, even after all of that, they're still trying to come up with all the excuses to justify. They really do idolize. And I will never, for the life of me, I will never idolize any of the politicians or any of the political parties. I won't even do that with Reform. I don't do it with any political party. Besides the Libertarian parties, who I would support with their policies and stuff like that, it's like they're so few and far between relative to the amount of votes they would get anyway. So you get where I'm coming from. It's just like,
yeah,
it's these people. And it goes on to that argument about the populists, and I'm sorry to say this, they really do have.
Oh my god.
They really do have this cultist mentality, man. And it's just as bad as the socialists. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they're just going back to Call of Duty World at War. Just trying to reanimate everything.
Exactly. It's exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to tell you, the other day I was playing Call of Duty Black Ops 1, and I saw that one mission where David Mason, he was kind of like going back in time to like see like Victor Reznov, and Victor
Uh,
Reznov, told him that freedom can only be achieved through certain means of a particular sacrifice. I think that's what he said, but if you basically remember that Vorkuta mission that he did,
mm,
Victor was telling him that, like, basically in order for the freedom to be achieved, the greater sacrifices have to be met by the strongest men that
yeah.
go out there and fight it. In which he made a good point, but he was basically stating that your freedom is only arisen when you start to stand up for yourself and fight for something that means something.
It's interesting, even although that's like, because they do try to get these games as accurate as possible and stuff like that. It's interesting you mention that because here's the thing: it is true that it could reach a point because of all the status and stuff like that. It could reach a point where you know people are left with no other option but to fight their way out of it. That will be the case. See, with a lot of those southerly European countries that are currently tied down to the European Union and like Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, and
Yeah.
that because of the mess that you know the likes of the European Union is causing, and just in general, it could create that sort of division and could potentially lead to wars. And it's funny that because the rhetoric was they claimed that the purpose of the European Union was to prevent war, which no such thing. But that it's just like that point you just raised there. Um, Sometimes it is a case where restoring liberty is done through fighting. Let's face it. Look at American history. How do you think the Revolutionary War came about? It was exactly that. They didn't take shite.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, out here in my area within Albany, there's certain sites in, let's just say, Saratoga, where they have Revolutionary War sites, but those were sites where British people or British soldiers back then got killed by the revolutionaries, and they
Mm,
had certain grave sites for them, where
yeah.
those sites were basically heavily fought for the quote unquote American rebels to hold their land, but after the war was technically over, it was never to be even talked about because a lot of people were trying to shun that away to say that wasn't important. And I'm just like sitting here like, no, like every area that you see within most parts of the U.S., a lot of the British try to take it off, but on top of that, they were trying to like oppress like many other people, including the black people that got enslaved.
Aye.
On top of that,
It was because it's just like what Arthur Herman had written in his book on the Scottish Enlightenment. I mean that Revolutionary War was like, in his words, was practically a British Civil War. You could kind of look at the way the American Revolutionary War was kind of like a sort of continuation of what happened here in Scotland. You look at the Highland clearances.
yeah,
You look at the even before then with the plantation years and things like that. And
yeah, yep,
and the thing was is that the people had enough, and that's the kind of, that was kind of the point when when our people went all there, had fought and colonised the south. The people all time just that was it. They had enough, and that's what led to the revolution. That's what led to the fight for freedom. And again, you could look forward in history, and again, it's the same story with some of the other wars in American history and that. And that's the sad part, and because of the fact that how many lives end up getting lost,
Yeah.
or it when it could be preventable. And people have this is another part of the problem. People have this problem. They don't accept hearing it now. They won't listen to you until it's all four wheels are over the cliff edge and it's already too late.
That's
that's,
hilarious.
that's the sad part.
Yeah, I was actually gonna add on to that to say like that the like basically like after the American Revolution, quote unquote, like America was supposed to be the nation to free other countries from that oppression. And I was talking with a very radical conservative that was like pretty much like your typical Donald Trump like supporter, and
Aye.
I was telling him, yeah, I was literally telling him the other day like that if you're a true minarchist, wouldn't you want to free other nations that are corrupted by bigger government? Because if that's the case, America should be wiping out its own state. Because
Mm-hmm.
if the U.S. government back then was supposed to fight for the greater good and for the better things to be more of a better ally to other countries, and then eventually like dismantle its own governing institutions to be a lesser superpower, then
An
America
interest.
should have never. Oh, like I was just gonna like finish up to say like
Aye.
America should have never went out of its way trying to expand more colonies and try to invade other countries for whatever reason.
You raised a good point on that argument, because the reality is you don't set about trying to free other countries through the means of force and through mere government,
Yeah.
because the very reason why the very reason why it's so important to see the liberalisation here in the West, especially in the United States, the very reason why I would love nothing more than to see the United States being economically liberalised for the government to move in the direction of a capitalist system, is because what it does is it forces the other countries around the United States to then compete with that, right? Because whether these leftist governments like it or not, the moment the United States liberalises the market, they're then forced to compete with that on the market, which it would force those countries to move in that direction, right? That's what happens. It's like a domino effect. It
Yeah.
has that strong influence because other countries have got to compete with that. Um, let's face it. See if they didn't, they'd be left miles behind, and they would see it. You're already seeing it with Javier Milei. I mean, okay, he's not exactly got that far yet in terms of um, getting rid of inflation completely at the moment. But if you were to contrast where Argentina was in 2023, I think it was like what 250 odd percent or 200, whatever it was. It was over 200% inflation.
Yeah, it was terrible. That was like Venezuela level terrible.
Aye, and they've managed, thanks to Mealy, they've managed to reduce the annual rate of inflation down to about 48%, which is like 1.5% inflation per month or something. And this is the thing, because we've been seeing gradual improvement in this year in 2025. And whether or not he clears the inflation, which I would imagine he would, if he continues on doing what he does, what that does is it does have a domino effect on other countries around them, because other countries are then forced to see, you know, they're doing better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would give socialist governments up a good showing up as well. You know, that's what happens. It becomes difficult for them. It would require South American countries are a bit different though. The reason being is because the fact that it's got a history of these dictators.
Yeah, just
It really does.
communism and fascism, just battling it out.
Aye, exactly. They really do have this history of dictators. Um, so if there's any country that I believe that really should take the bull by the horns and liberalise the market, if there's any country, it should be the United States.
Yeah, yeah, because I was gonna say, like, in regards to, like, like what I believe in for anarcho-capitalism, I think the U.S. is very powerful to do that because if you look at like that one little society over in Honduras, I think it's called Prospera. They're doing really well, and they have like a lot of people that are going over there. That I think they focus on a lot of like healthcare, scientific based research, but
Mm.
overall they've been doing very well. And the Honduran government, they try a lot to try to like get rid of them, but the people over there actually like them a lot, and the community's growing, and people are getting together to put their money into that area where they have pieces backing up their communities. So I think like
Yeah.
with that type of like domino effect idea to come into the U.S., I can definitely see plenty of areas all over the U.S. doing that because there's already like people that have like I'm not too sure what they're really called. I think they're called I think they're called private membership association communities. They're kind of similar to like to like a HOA that you see within housing developments, but I think
Um,
having things like that where where people get together and decentralize, I think that would be a very great idea to break apart the all the government bureaucracies in the U.S. and eventually it's going to economically decentralize little by little through incrementalism.
yeah, a lot of that goes on to the argument that a lot of people don't understand the difference. And quite interesting. Recently, I've actually because I had been using it for language learning and stuff like that with the Copilot artificial intelligence.
Oh, nice.
I decided to start, you know, ask asking it questions on some of the topic issues that I was discussing. And one of the things I was discussing with the artificial intelligence was about to do with free markets. I was discussing with it as if it was a person. You know what I mean? To see what artificial intelligence would come back with, to see what response I would get from it. And I was asking it, why is it that people just cannot understand um, that, that free markets work, best, and that all government intervention does is cause harm to the economy? Why is it people can't understand the difference between true and fake private ownership? I swear to God, see if you're discussing that sort of thing and asking that sort of thing to the artificial intelligence like Copilot, you'd be shocked by the response you get. Copilot seems more intelligent than your average person.
Oh
It,
yeah.
it fully understands the answer. In fact, it was even given me back because I was sent it because I discussed on the topic of things like the NHS that's faced with things like the central planning problem, with the economic calculation problem, knowledge problem, and I even raised the point to say people keep on trying to call England's so-called private water as being private, but it really isn't private at all. It's
Yeah.
private name only. It's fake private ownership, and the artificial intelligence, you know, Copilot was coming back and actually giving a response, an actual answer, giving it an historical example of why the so-called private water isn't private. And the answer it gave was the fact that here in Britain and England, especially down south, it's not private to what people think, because what you've got is these regional monopolies. So in other words, they haven't got consumer choice. It's not like they can choose a water company. You know what I mean? It's like they're
Yeah, you don't
forced
have
within their
competition.
region. Aye. So they're forced within their region to what company they've got, and that's it. And then they've got the AI even mentioned about price ceilings and stuff like that. You know, it's amazing the information that you can gather just from artificial intelligence on those things, and it's quite interesting because, like like you were mentioning, well, this is the thing. I mean, people don't understand the difference between true and fake private ownership, and this is why you've got a lot of people that don't, you know, understand the value of private ownership to decentralize.
Yeah, I think every time a commie tries to come back at me and tell me that, oh, you don't understand what ownership is. Ownership doesn't really exist because if you own a stick, I can just come up to you and just take it. But like if I beat you with my stick and I hurt you and then it comes to you dying, then yeah, then I do own the stick because it's my stick. So it's like, yeah, ownership does exist. There's a natural component to it. And then when they
Yeah,
say, well, economics is just all made up, man, it doesn't exist.
I mean, how else do these people think that private property rights came about? You know what I mean?
It didn't just come from like one particular, like group of people. It like, it's a universalized concept.
Aye, and it was something that the importance of private property wasn't, sorry, private property rights wasn't only that created the incentive for people to work hard for the fruits of their own labour. One of the main reasons behind private property rights was it, it's what enabled binded society to create harmony in society. That's what basically was a component to prevent the well, not, you're not saying fully prevent, but it certainly protected people from things like the violence and the theft and all the rest of it. That's kind of the whole purpose. That's what would create and bind society to create harmony for a society to live harmoniously together. And they can't understand that. And it goes back to that. You'll remember the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone where he's sitting in his motor.
Oh yeah.
He's not. He's car keys stolen. That's the example.
No property ownership just means anybody just walks into your house while you're trying to read a book. You're like, hey man,
Exactly.
I got 20 other friends that are gonna do some bad things. Yeah, don't worry, man. Like everything will be fine. Breaks everything up inside like your house.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the whole discussion that we had. Well, that one topic that you brought up about AI. I don't know if I told you, like, I'm working into getting into my field for cybersecurity, and a lot of people like to say AI is bad. AI is going to take over our jobs, and personally, with me, I don't believe in that. I think it's
Yeah.
absolutely like nonsensical. I think if anything, AI is a great, human companion tool to help people grow. And personally, with me, like I think like with the amount of knowledge that I'm getting with AI,
Yeah.
I think the assets are going to be a lot stronger, and I don't think government is going to be able to even handle that because the amount of innovation that you have with people that are coding into it or even just talking with it, I think the AI is going to start to understand things a lot stronger, and then the adaptation will be a lot better to grow people's, like,
Yeah.
people's goals, a lot faster.
Well, this
So
is the thing because, I mean, with artificial intelligence, I mean, it is something that's heavily influential, but when people say about, taking jobs, here's the problem with their argument. The reality is, you could not have an economy, and automation could not solve the problem. You could not have an economy where prices are fixed or knowable. You couldn't do it. There's only one way you could rationally run an economy and know people's needs and wants. And the only way that you can do that is by having price fluctuation, and that would require
yeah,
consumers effectively freely shopping around to buy the goods that they want. Now, the only way, therefore, that people that you could have consumers with money is by them having a job. So
yeah,
it, it the reality is you couldn't go with it, having consumers. You couldn't have an economy without people getting paid a wage. There has to be people working. It's just a fact of life. It's how you meet consumers' demand. You couldn't do it without it. So if anything, artificial intelligence would be not brought in to, take away jobs. If anything, what it will do, sure, it might take specific jobs. It might free up time for people to do other specific chores. But the reality is, it's something that's going to complement, if anything. You take, for argument's sake, how I'm using artificial intelligence, even to a specific, extent, with regards to helping getting feedback on my language learning and things like that. You know what I mean? Um, it's something there to assist. That doesn't necessarily mean that, oh well, it's going to get rid of teachers. That isn't the case.
no,
And it's just like, it's that argument again, because me as a photographer, people could say, oh well, artificial intelligence will just take away. Well, not really. I mean, how do people think, especially those type of photographers that do events? Events is something where you're photographing moments that actually happen. You know what I mean? And that's what people pay for. Even when it comes to my pet photography, people want photographs of their pets and stuff like that, of moments that actually happen. That's not something artificial intelligence can do. You know, artificial intelligence can be built into a camera to help to assist, or
oh
such as, for
yeah,
example, see the autofocus and things like that. Things like that. Artificial intelligence can help improve technology. Can help, you know, assist in specific things. I've used it for wee things like removing dog leashes and things like that. I think I even used it once. It was a panoramic photo, a bunch of photographs, and because of the fact I was photographing part of the ocean, then of course, I would have to stitch it together. So I used artificial intelligence. But this is the point: artificial intelligence is something that's just going to assist, rather than, oh well, leading to people being jobless. Because, as you know, people require money if you're to meet consumers' demands. You couldn't have a system where, oh well, artificial intelligence has all the jobs, people have no
yeah.
money, and how
Supercomputer controls everything.
yeah,
Nonsense.
and how the hell would that so-called technological central planning work? Well, they could say, oh well, the artificial intelligence would be able to read what we need and want. Well, not necessarily. I even seen someone once mention about Facebook. and they say, oh, well, you already have a thing where it can read what you're looking up and things like that, and it shows you advertisements. But first of all, that's breaching into surveillance. It's taking away your privacy. The second thing, that's not necessarily accurate. There's a lot of times these ads come up and they're for things that you're not even interested in. And plus the fact, your demands, your needs and wants far exceed what is at face value. You know what I mean? Way
Yeah.
beyond that some computer could never read.
Yeah, I was just gonna like add into that to say like ever since the very first computer per se in technological history has ever been created, that being the abacus, everybody would probably say back then, oh well, this abacus that would have been changing the world forever, was going to hurt people's jobs in counting and blah blah blah. Like I'm basically trying to use that argumentation to say that every piece of innovation that has been created within all certain millennia of human mankind has helped people grow a lot better and more efficiently. And yes, like certain innovations might have faults, but the truth is that if people are using it to better their working environments to become a lot smarter and a lot more sufficient, and they don't have to be heavily dependent off of other people to do that work for them that involves more physical hands-on labor, then that is a better future to go for. Because if you tell me that I need to work my butt off a lot harder doing coal mining and I could possibly die tomorrow, and if there is a case that coal miners can very well risk their lives a lot deeper going into the deeper sections of possibly hurting themselves in more violent situations of having to go
Yeah,
through all that hard labor, then no, then that's terrible to not advocate for innovation like AI and other technological advancements that could help those coal miners not go through that risk anymore. And then if you could have like a robot do it, I'm totally fine with that. I am fine with having a good helping companion that can take that risk for you. And
yeah, yeah,
then yeah, like that will save a lot more lives and that will help people grow. I'll even use other industries like the medical industry. It would be great to have AI robots, precisely do human surgeries properly instead of having a certain particular mistake that's done by somebody that does a surgery from a high level doctor. And let's just say if
yeah.
that doctor does screw up that one little, piece of organ that doesn't go right in the surgery, then
Mhm.
that's going to hurt somebody. So
Yeah,
I say go for it. Let's see where we can improve it. And that's a great thing. If
yeah,
AI and technology gets a lot stronger and we end up growing a lot faster with it, then that's going to make us more happier. We're not going to be lazy. We're not going to be going
yeah.
through like the Will Smith movie of what the surrogates. Well, no, I don't think Will Smith was in that movie, but there was a movie called Surrogates, and that was a movie based off of like what if robots were to like take over and people were just basically controlling the robots to let androids basically run everything. And
Don't get me
basically,
wrong. I mean, certain I can understand. Like there is, and you see for these films that. Don't get me wrong. If certain technology can fall into the wrong people's hands, um, people can use it for bad reasons. I mean, you saw that with governments when it came to using drones.
oh
You know,
yeah, definitely. Military warfare is horrible with
aye.
it.
And this is it. And the funny thing is that they talk about AI taking away jobs. Well, if anything takes away jobs, is actually the government. And you,
Yeah, they, yeah.
and it goes back to the industrial revolution. The same argument as they tried to say about the machines. And you'll remember that clip, Charlie Chaplin, and he was saying about how the machines left people in want. They're so ignorant. They're so ignorant of how important those machines were because it was nothing at all to do with trade unions, what you would call labour unions. It was nothing at all to do with government, because if government was the reason for the growth of wages and the improvement of people's wealth, then why didn't the governments do that before the Industrial Revolution? Why did the Industrial Revolution just so happen to happen in the latter part of the 18th century? Why didn't it happen, in any century before then?
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah,
like, and the fact of the matter is, and this is something that they might, whether they like it or not, the fact of the matter is, it was capital accumulation. Through all that, capital accumulation that led to the growth, because the reason why there was a faster growth in the second part of the Industrial Revolution is because more technology would come around, the technology would improve. It's
yeah,
only natural, it's common sense then to say the reason why there was a slower growth at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution is because they were yet to come up with the technology, the machines that would be able to mass produce, be able to do, you know, the to be able to mass produce in order to for more goods to go around as well. Of course, that would create more wealth, and since there'd be more to go around, there's more goods being bought. Therefore, there's more profits for companies, and it's only natural that wages are going to continuously increase because of that. So, it's only natural that capital accumulation through all that technological innovation of those machines, that the better the machines became, the more they were able to mass produce. And since the more goods that were being produced, then only natural that more goods were being bought. Therefore, the more these companies were able to pay wages to their workers, and it's amazing how people can't understand something as basic as that. They somehow think, oh well, it's just government legislation. Well, if that was the case, then why didn't government legislation do that before the Industrial Revolution? And this is the point, because let's just say, for argument's sake, and it's a good way to actually trick these people. You say to them, well, okay then, hypothetically speaking, what if the government was to impose all that legislation, right, before the Industrial Revolution? Well, the reality is, and if you ask them this simple question, if you were to do a project of digging a great big hole in the ground, and you had countless people using shovels, then think about it. How long would that take you to do the job? You know what I mean?
yeah,
How long would it take you to do the job with shovels? Now, ask them the question: if you were to do the same job with just one worker sitting in one of those big, massive digging machines that you've got today, who would be able to do the job quicker?
yeah,
You know what I mean? And not only that, be able to collect more dirt to dig. Well, quite obviously, since that machine is able to do the job quicker, it enabled multitasking and things. That's the reason why people are able to, stick their clothes in a washing machine and then go and iron their other clothes. You know what I mean? And as well as the clothes that have been washed, they can stick in the tumble dryer. That's multitasking. That all came about because of machines.
yeah, true.
that's
And then I'm not, yeah,
that's the thing, and that's what a lot of people take for granted. Their holidays and their reduced work week hours didn't come about because
Government.
Exactly. It came about because of the artificial intelligence. Well, at the time it came about because of the automation, shall I say, the machines. But
Yeah.
these days with artificial intelligence, it's the same story. In my view, it's the same story.
Yeah. I was going to respond to say that the great ideas of innovation with AI and other upcoming technologies within our lifetime would make things a lot better if people could work less and earn more money while doing what they do. Because if you compare a blacksmith from from the ancient European, like medieval times, from like Scotland or something, making
Mhm.
swords, and compare that to like a gunsmith using AI to 3D print weapons all day, I'm sure
Oh,
that I'm sure that guy from the ancient days would be like, hey, sign me up and bring me over there.
oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Honestly. I mean, if those people back in those days and the harsh living of what life was like in Scotland, um, the amount of work that they would have had to go through just for basic things, um, and you could imagine what it would have been like, even for the sake of agriculture and things before the Industrial Revolution. You know yourself that there's periodical famines and all sorts, and that's the thing, because it was the harsh reality. If they ever if you took somebody from the even the 1600s and you placed them into the even the 19th century, never let alone the 20th century, they would get their eyes open. They'd be absolutely gobsmacked. Um,
Yeah.
because that sort of wealth didn't exist back then. I mean, I remember going to Rabbie Burns because I went down one year. I've actually got the video and all sorts. Um, where he wrote the famous poem To a Mouse. I think it was in Ellie's Land Farm in Scotland. And it was interesting to go down and actually see his farm and that, and got shown around um, where he lived, his house. And out the back door, we were shown basically where he would do the toilet. So in other words, they never had toilets in those days. You know what I mean? That didn't come around until, I think, what was it, the latter part of the 19th century. The same thing goes for toilet paper, something that
Wow.
people take for granted. Like toilet paper didn't even exist until I think it was like 1880s or something like that. It's mental.
Wait, so people never use like a toilet until like after the Industrial Revolution? Yeah, because
Tell
I
us.
thought I thought with the Mesopotamian region with like ancient Sumer, didn't they create like a like a yeah.
I think they created. It's mental. It's honestly see the likes of like way back, the likes of ancient Greece and that they were
Yeah.
so far ahead of their time. So I, sometimes I get the impression that they created so much, and there probably was so much destroyed. Seeing that fire in the the library in Alexandria, I
Yeah.
would not be surprised with that fire. It destroyed so much of the information, and therefore we're having to relearn it the day. If there is specific things, I would not be surprised. I seriously would not be surprised. I mean, some of the things that I've seen, the ancient Greeks invented, like alarm clocks and things.
Yeah, alarm clocks, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy, isn't it? So,
Yeah, I say the Greeks and the Egyptians had probably one of like the best innovations like throughout that time frame. And then eventually it transferred over to the European nations and then the Americas slowly.
yeah, that's the thing. Rome, Rome was an empire that you could argue copied. Greece for so
Yeah,
much,
literally.
like so many things, and
Yeah, the
that's
Spartan.
honest how influential they were. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um. Yeah, because I was just gonna say, like, in regards to the topic that you mentioned with innovation, that um a lot of the innovation benefits that a lot of markets were trying to fight against governing institutions back then during the industrial revolution. They were trying to bring more wealth into the market so people can be broken away from like from state intervention that was holding them back. And the only reason why you have a good economic way of living is because certain businesses were fighting for those worker rights to say, we want to pay our workers and we want to be free away from this. Because if government was to be quote unquote responsible for giving people a good job to work at, and you're able to go to work having good livable wages, then why are they creating regulations pushing businesses out of
Yeah.
their areas? And then, like, you have crazy states like New York being like, hey, us senators got this big giant bill kicking all you business owners out. Even if you start like an online business, you have to have all these crazy licenses and blah blah blah. Like, no,
Well,
that's
here's
just
the thing: whether people like this fact or not, and it's one of the biggest myths that was ever told, and I've stated this before. You'll remember when I stated about the Victorian children
oh yeah,
and the myth that they claimed that, oh well, it was the factory owners that exploited them. Well, going on about that point, in reality, it was the government itself that was exploiting those orphan children. The government the government was fully responsible for paying those orphan children a wage. The government was the one that was fully responsible for that,
wow.
and all the government did was put those those orphan children into the factories and paid them nothing. So it goes to that point. See, if government was the so-called savior of paying those wages, why didn't government pay those
Poor
Victorian
families.
orphan children any wage? You know what I mean? Why didn't the government pay them? Because the real exploiter of the entire thing was government to start with. And it's like you said, all the regulations. It's just that you'll remember about the famous tobacco company
Yeah.
charging cheaper prices. Well, there you go. There's a prime example. Charging cheaper prices. So what does Congress set about then? Destroying, the tobacco company to prevent them creating a trust because they were charging cheaper prices and apparently it wasn't fair. So what that is saying is it's a huge concession that government was more or less saying, well, here's why we need higher consumer prices. And the funny thing is that it was the government's intervention through all the regulatory policy since 1908 that you've seen things like American healthcare and all sorts soaring out of control. The
Yeah.
government was responsible for all of it. And
Creating
people,
all these crazy,
aye,
association groups for healthcare,
yeah,
for lottery commissions,
aye,
for buying property, like all these crazy, you know, subsidiary government firms.
exactly. And and even to this day, they still think government is their saviour. Yet the so-called protectionist policies and things like the antitrust law legislation, that was never about protecting the consumer.
No,
That was all about saying
no
self-interest to gain
monopolies.
more leverage. That's what governments do. Governments always look for some excuse to gain more leverage over the market. It's just sad truth of it.
Yeah, the bureaucracy is naturally evil. they,
Exactly.
they don't make money. They just have to live off of other people's money.
No, it's honestly, well, that's what it has to tax fee. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I was going to ask some other questions before I wrap up. Wanted to ask in regards to like where things are with like the current. Oh, oh yeah. Hold on. I
yeah,
apologize.
that's no problem.
Oop, hold on. Hold on. Yeah, yeah. I apologize. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
So yeah. Basically, what I was trying to say is that due to the current state of like where things are at, um, like economically, like specifically with the U.S. and other parts of the world, do you think that there would be a potential breaking point where a lot of these first class, like economies will start to collapse, and then people will start to, how should I say, like they'll start to like have that libertarian like effect to start to wake up against a lot of state corrupt governments.
Something's telling me that there's a funny shift going on at the moment. If you look, as negative as it could have been over the Trump situation, if you look at the positive side of things, first and foremost, the majority of the American population, by percentage, were strongly against America being involved with any funding of wars abroad. They didn't. They showed that when it came to the whole Israel Palestine thing. They showed that by more than 90%. Like American people says no, we don't want our we don't even want to be involved. That's what American people were saying. They're saying, take your wars and get yourself to, they didn't want anything at all to do with it. That's a huge positive sign, but it isn't just that. You've seen it from a lot of people in America. A lot of people basically wanted all that cuts, the cuts to the spending, the cuts to the taxation. They basically wanted that. But here's the point. See, because of what Trump has done, right? It's caused a massive dent in that movement. Do not be surprised if there's many, many, many so-called MAGAs out there who have become disillusioned by that. There will be. And I wouldn't be surprised if you know a good many yourself. Um, there will be many who have become disillusioned by that. And the point being is the fact that what it's shown is that more and more people are seeking change. And they're starting to see that the whole two-party system, it doesn't work. And there's only so long you can lead people up the garden path. You'll only lead people up the garden path for as long as you get away with. Eventually, that all has to come to an end. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I just think like where everything is at economically, um, a lot of things that the state is doing now, especially in first world economies, it's now crumbling a lot faster, and
Yeah.
I don't think any government can just do that forever, and they're just going to get away with it because they are committing crimes against their own people to encroach debt.
Yeah.
And then these people that say, oh well, it's not going to matter because like for anybody that goes to college and finish their degree and they'll be fine with like a job. No, that's not true. A lot of people are going to be sitting up in bread lines if something crazy happens with inflation, and then everything just
Yeah.
crumbles right in front
The
of you.
more desperate, put it this
So
way, see the more desperate that people become because of the situation, the more desperate that people become or the situation that they're faced with, then you're definitely going to see eventually. You're definitely going to see where people will, look to that alternative. That's the reason why people were falling away from the political left and began moving towards the so-called conservative movement. But see, because of the fact that the mainstream and this corporatist system, it's never, it's, put it this way, it's not sustainable in the long term from an economic standpoint of view. And if anything, see what's happening in Argentina right now. If like I said, if Javier Milei breaks that mold and pushes Argentina through deflation, that's going to make a lot of people sit up and take notice. 100%. I guarantee you it will. 100%, because there's no way that people can then say, oh well, you know, he did this because Argentina's economy only grew because of, no, they can't say that. They're seeing it themselves that it's been done to Milei and his actions to do with deregulation, the government cuts the expenditure and all sorts. So that's why it's so important that Milei. Now, I'm not going to say I'm going to fully trust him, right?
Yeah, same here.
I'll still be, like I say, I'll still be skeptical. But if he really does turn Argentina into a growing success, that's it for me. Because once people sit up and take notice of that, socialism is as good as dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because of what Milei's doing.
Yeah, because I was going to say that I have friends that are from there, and they were telling me that things are not doing good right now, just simply due to like a lot of the corruption. And I will agree for a good portion of that. Like, yes, like that is very true with like what you're saying too.
What they need to understand is, right, because this is the bit that people are confusing. Milei has reduced inflation significantly.
Yeah.
However, inflation is still in place. Right?
Yeah.
So long as inflation is still in place, then obviously prices increase. Then you know, it's only natural that. And the other thing you have to look at is because the recession hit. Now, what happens when a recession hits? A recession means that the economy grinds to a halt, and therefore productivity grinds to a halt. So it was only natural that it was going to create problems, and it was a hurdle that, you know, Milei had to try and get over. The biggest hurdle that he had to get over was getting re-elected in May, and he did successfully. That was a huge.
Oh wow.
That was something huge because the Argentinian economy hit a recession the latter part of last year, continuing on into this year. And therefore, that could have hindered him from being re-elected. But people, by their numbers, you know, voted him back in. So this is the thing, because what Argentina's facing is what you call stagflation.
Yeah.
So, you know, stagflation is the sort of thing where your economy grinds to a halt, but you also faced with the reality of inflation, because there's still an annual rate of 48% inflation. That's why I say you still get a good bit to go. If he clears the inflation, then the people living there will start to see a difference, because it goes back to that point you said on wages, because deflation is the most important thing. You know, you don't tackle a wage problem through things like minimum wage and stuff like that. That's damaging. you tackle a wage problem through deflation, because what deflation basically does is deflation. What deflation causes, shall I say? It's not what deflation is. Deflation is obviously where the monetary supply, where the total number of goods in the economy exceeds the total quantity of the monetary supply. But what deflation causes is for the purchasing power of the monetary value to increase and consumer prices to fall. And therefore, that inevitably leads to people's wages being worth a hell of a lot more than what it is today. And that's the reason why if he continues on that road, who knows whether it happens by 2026. But if he starts to drive Argentina through deflation, then they'll see the difference, because that's when you start to see consumer prices falling, and I'm talking about widespread across the economy. You'll begin to see the purchasing power increasing. It's not something that was just because of the amount of mess that Argentina was in. It wasn't something that was just going to happen all night. You know what I mean, like that.
Yeah. Well,
I think this is the thing people forget that, because the way that the place that the socialists left Argentina in was in an absolute mess, in absolute tatters.
Yeah, so they were super fascistic, and they were, killing their own people for better yet of like 50 plus years. And then also let the CIA try to invade them too. Call of Duty Black Ops 1.
They got involved even when it came to Chile, and you remember the early 1970s and all.
Oh yeah, like Pinochet.
Aye. It's mental. But these South American countries have had this cycle, and that's why you'll remember the author Naomi Klein, who came out with all that nonsense about disaster capitalism.
Oh yeah.
People like her. They don't understand that those countries went through a cycle between heavy socialism to that of just what's basically mere socialism, but just kind of, that kind of cronyism.
Yeah.
So that's it. So it's just a switch between the two of them. They've never
pseudo anti-capitalism
seen capitalism. Exactly.
Yeah. It's just corrupt corporatism going up against the validity of a free market that's supposed to operate effectively.
That's essentially what Britain and the United States are today. Corporatist.
Yeah, just corporatist, pseudo. Exactly. Yeah, pseudo economies.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's the reality.
Yeah, I was going to add into that with what you said with Javier Milei. I think that's just a pure example that all second world to third world countries do not just become first world overnight, but their government is the one holding all that debt, for years worth of basically rebuilding. So it's that's already difficult for them to even try to get past that. But for Javier Milei's situation, he can't just get rid of that altogether. That has to be done by getting rid of all these crazy nonsense market regulations and all these crazy, debt sanctions that are probably being put onto them. And, eventually over time, that's when companies will start to be more independent to do what they want to do. And then, there you go. You have a good job at McDonald's or any other high level company that is able to, administer better positions to people that are actually qualified for it.
Even when it comes to the privatization, for example, he just recently, it was said that he was privatizing the roads and stuff like that. I've said before that, there's no such thing as perfection. And how these people operate is they think, oh, look, here's a private company failing. oh, there's failure in the private sector, that must mean all private ownership is a failure. And that's not the case. What capitalism's all about is rewarding success and punishing failure. If there's failure of private companies in a capitalist system, then that's a sign the capitalist system is working, because it's getting rid of the dead wood, and only those that are successful survive. And that's the way it's supposed to be. And the thing is that with regards to what Javier Milei is doing is cutting government by moving things towards the private sector. He's definitely the most radical. I personally don't even use the word radical over
Yeah, same here.
because purely because of the fact that it's the right thing that he's doing. But with that being said, I mean, in terms of what he's basically doing in Argentina is huge, because that will eventually lead in the right direction. Like I said, it will take time, because, like you were touching upon, it's so much to reverse from the mess that was left before. You know what I mean? He's already had to reduce so much government waste. They cut the size of government and all sorts. And you're already seeing improvement in many regards. But obviously, to really ramp up productivity and things like that, then of course, who knows when the recession will be over, but I don't think he's that far off it.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not like part of that group to just be like, oh well, libertarianism must be followed with having this person represent politics, and then poof,
Yeah,
everything will just be achieved. Now, like I don't believe in that. I'm not gonna just be supporting Malay for that. But I will say that for certain good things that he has done,
yeah,
uh, that is gonna make a huge effect to other countries like the U.S., where if people start to see that from the outside looking in, then that
yeah,
can create that domino effect of people wanting to be like, hey, well, instead of just having somebody go in and just fix it, how about we just
exactly.
disobey, and then we don't need to give our money to these like politicians and all these federal, subsidiary institutions. Like, there's so much that people can do with disobedience. And I don't know if you follow Larkin Rose, but Larkin Rose said that when the U.S. comes to that point of like massive disobedience and having to like properly organize in the sense of you have like you have a pure decentralized community of people that are ready to fight if there is to be a if there is to be like a blowback from the state. those
Yeah,
people those people are already in full support to look out for one another. And I think that's like the biggest fear that a lot of people have in terms of having that spontaneous order when you have like a society that is actually unified on principle, but people think that, oh well, everybody's just going to divide up against each other, and there's not going to be no order. No, people have to come to that universalised
I think
understanding.
it's because a lot, when it comes to things like even for argument's sake on anarchism, people view it from a perspective where they think it's just, oh well, governmentless, therefore it's lawless. And that isn't the case. It isn't
No.
the case at all. It's nothing like that. Um, Even speaking from a minarchist perspective, wouldn't matter whether it's anarchist, minarchist. The reality is the fact that a lot of it is decentralized,
Yeah.
and it's a case that you do have all the laws and things like that are there, and it's like it goes back to that point again with private property rights, and the purpose of them creating that harmony within society and having the private security and things like that. There, I'm strongly in support, because I agree with Murray Rothbard's argument on you know the private polis. You know what I mean? Because for me, it would work very successfully. resources be allocated to right, areas for neighbourhoods and things like that. All that. Of what you could go through. But I mean, in general terms, I mean, if it were to reach that point, there's no reason why it wouldn't be a success. Free markets succeed because people have got the freedom to think, they've got the freedom to do, they've got the freedom to exchange. They're not weighed down by some government dictating to them to do this, that, and the next thing. In fact, you could go as far as to argue that Singapore would be even better off if they had social freedom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think what you see in terms of what's considered free is due to the people that are cooperatively unified on principle, and the reason why you have a good life is the community that you basically stay with, and you actually get to know and actually look after for people that are good neighbors around you. And I think that's a good community to have. I want to have a good life, and I want to have a good family and a good community to live by. And I don't want no degenerate evil people living nearby me and trying to create havoc and violence, because that's the quote unquote anarchy that people say that's bad. And no, that's just a degenerate chaos that people have at a bad morality and poor ethics. So I
Yeah, I
think,
mean, these things with crime and stuff like that, you could bring up. I mean, a lot of that typically does stem from lack of opportunity and impoverishment.
yeah,
For example, look at the government's failed war on drugs. It didn't work. you know, it was a
El
disaster.
Chapo, you still got El Chapo's people, still running out here in America.
Exactly, exactly. Right. So that's exactly my point, because all what all government does with its restrictions? It just creates an underground. And the reality is, people just try, break the law to find ways around it. Whereas when you liberalise people, it has the opposite effect to make people think.
Yeah,
When you liberalise people and you give them opportunity to go and be and do, you see a massive difference. Especially comparing. I've stated this before, but comparing the level of opportunity, the freedom of opportunity that you get in a free market economy, in comparison to that we have the day, is it any wonder why crime is through the roof in these Western countries today, like here in Britain or in the United States? Is it any surprise? Well, that's the blaming government. Government created the environment that made life difficult for people. That's why people are breaking into all these stores and that.
yeah,
Because there's no,
looting, creating all these mob gangs, to try to to basically rob people and take their
aye.
property away.
And the thing was is that they created that environment where you, it destroyed people's wages. You know what I mean? Through all that inflation, it made people suffer because prices of everything is soared out of control. House prices, you name it. So no wonder that it incentivized people to break the law and commit crime and stuff like that. The government more or less created that environment. And that's the very reason why you need to free the market up. Because it what it does is it destroys that incentive, because people have no longer got that incentive. They know they can easily go and get a good job and get a pretty decent wage. And because of deflation can get them, a pretty decent life. Whereas today, they're not able to get that. mean, you go back to 1913. One, I'm not talking about, obviously, of course, people's material standards of living has improved. No question about that fact. But if you were to go back to 1913 in the United States of America, $1 was equal to the value of what $100 is worth a day.
So $100 was like $1,000.
You know, it's just mental. You think about how much money that was. You know what I mean? I mean, okay, from a material living standard, I mean, they didn't have what we have today, like all this electrical, you know, all the games machines and all the computers and all, you know, they didn't have all that sort of wealth and that. But from a monetary perspective, they were able to afford a hell of a lot more relative to what they had in those days. And so, could you imagine having a deflationary economy equivalent to what the United States had in 1913? Well, up
Oh
to,
yeah,
I
definitely.
say up to 1913 because obviously 1913 was the famous year of the Federal Reserve and all the
And leading to the stock market crash heading into World War, II. World War I and World War II.
Exactly. they caused that depression that 1921 that a lot of people often forget.
Yep.
But that's exactly the point. It's been because of the Federal Reserve and that's devalued people's currency so much. I know that 3.3 trillion debt ceiling that Trump's went ahead with, the big beautiful bill. You know, that's the point. Because see if American people were sitting with a valuation of a currency. I say currency because see, currency is no real true money. It's basically that paper. But see if Americans were sitting with the gold standard. Say it was gold and silver for argument's sake, right? Just hypothetically speaking, because I know that obviously the silver standard was wiped out in 1834, but just hypothetically speaking, say you had gold and silver as your money, and you were sitting with what you got in 1913, where $1 would be equal to $100. Just say that for argument's sake. Where would the crime be? And you think about the level of opportunity you would have in a free market economy, honestly, people wouldn't have a problem then. See so many of the problems that you're seeing people complaining and out there protesting about and all that, it would destroy the incentive for that because they would be rich. Honestly, in comparison today, they would be rich because the fall in consumer prices, the amount of goods they would be able to buy, even on an entry level job, never let alone somebody working as an electrician or something. you know what I'm saying? It's mental. It's and even the housing market. The housing market faced this crisis because of years of all the regulatory capture and all the regulatory problems, the housing bubbles, the house flipping and all sorts. Today with the
government subsidies to interfere with housing markets,
the
to
planning
like,
commissions.
yeah.
There was a prime example. You know who Ewan McGregor is?
I think I've heard of him. Yeah.
You ever seen Train Spotting?
Probably not, but I think I might need to see that now.
Ewan McGregor, he's a famous Scot actor. He's got a house here in Scotland, right? I think it's like £2 million worth or something like that.
£2 million. Oh
my God. And his lead roof needs repairing. It was just actually in a recent article, right? His lead roof needs repairing. I think his house must be in Perthshire or something, right? Perth, which is just south of the Cairngorms, right? National
Hmm.
Park. So it's just south of that. It's north of Stirling, right?
Okay.
The Perth Shire Council rejected his proposal. No, I wouldn't say the word proposal. They rejected his request for repairing, his lead roof. They rejected it, and that, you know what that says? It's the typical example of how all governments do is standing in the way of people being able to get ahead and do something that they need done. That's all governments do.
Wow. Yeah, that's probably like the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Where
Huh?
literally some stupid local government council telling you can't get your roof fixed. So,
Exactly.
so basically, if there's like a natural disaster, you have to wait until it's completely destroyed, and then insurance is gonna cover it. No, I want to get it fixed now.
Honestly, it's just the people who defend these governments, man, and the councils are just, there's, and it's anybody that's paid attention to Glasgow and Glasgow's city council, they're just so incompetent, man. Honestly,
Yeah, they sound like weirdos from New York.
that's it. I remember seeing that about New York having sadly voted in a socialist, man. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, the Mandati dude, the NYC mayor.
He's mental, man. That's
Yeah,
just.
he's a psycho weirdo. I'm glad I
I'll
don't live
tell you
there.
what, though. I'll tell you what, though. See if he rips the arse out of New York, it'll be the perfect timing because whilst you've got one example of Melee and what he's doing with Argentina, here you've got this nutcase. Of course, I don't wish it upon the people that, that people suffer as a consequence of that. You know what I mean? It's just you hope that people waking up though. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. I personally just don't want to go through like a time frame where the economy is so bad and all the money that I've saved up is just worthless with
Exactly.
all the crazy inflation and all these cost of living just gets higher and higher, and then people think it's okay, and then you're paying like dang near like what $8,000 a month for rent, and people are just thinking, oh well, that's just gonna be fine. Like no, that's now like critical, like code red, like super duper like wild, like inflation that's gonna like
Yeah.
crumble everything.
Yeah, I mean, nobody wants to end up in that position. You want to be able to get by in life, you know what I mean? You don't wish it upon anybody, but at the same time, you only hope that if something bad does happen, that people waking up for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, like, what would be the best way to combat against that? Because if there is to be like a time like in the Western nations like the U.S. or the U.K. where those economies are turning into like third world level poor, is the best way just civil disobedience to like start to decentralize and have those black markets in place in case that just ever devolves?
Well, black markets will prop up, but how people get around that, how people protect themselves from that mess, is investment. That's it. It's the best thing that people can do right now is protect themselves by investing in things, whether it's gold and silver when the time is right, or specific other assets and things like that. At least then you've got something there tangible in case these things do happen. Because the harsh reality is, see all those who don't, they will sadly suffer. And you can kind of guess what's going to come about. look at the politicians and the rhetoric they've been coming out with about the central bank digital currency and things like that. You can predict what these fraudsters are trying. They're going to they're causing our currency to collapse. And it'll probably happen to the dollar at some stage. The only reason why it hasn't happened yet is because it's the world's reserve currency. You see when all that collapses and that, guarantee you anything that these politicians will try to act as your saviour. They'll try to act as your saviour and say, oh, here's why we need a central bank digital currency. I hope that people are wise enough by that time to tell them to go fuck off. Tell them to shove it right up their arse.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, you know, fiat currency is always going to be, you know, the king with cash. So I think eventually, you know, best case scenario, your cash is going to be like your biggest weapon, you know, like, you know, of a self defense. And eventually over time, you know, there's going to be other currencies that are going to exceed over gold and silver, because it's always good to have them, but the accessibility is probably not always going to be there. But I think like as like new currencies just keep like evolving, I think eventually like that's just gonna have to be like the better like backups to say, you know, I got, you know, a little bit of diamonds here, or I got crystals, or I got you know, anything that's in value to trade and barter. Because
I think there will eventually be something that will take. There was an interesting argument, of course, before by the likes of Tom Woods and that, and he was saying how when it comes to the likes of gold and silver, it doesn't need that expansion. You know, it's not really the case. You can have the steady flow of that quantity, but whatever the free market money would be, whatever that would, whatever the people determine is to be our money, then I've got full faith. You know what I mean? Like you say, it's not something that's infinite in value, but I still think for the time being, I still think gold and silver is still number one. I still believe that. Even although it's been thingied away for us for about 100, you know, or 100 years or so, I still believe that is the best, you know, that we've got. I do take interest though with people and their arguments on things like Bitcoin and that, whatever comes about. You know, if such a system was created, you never know, then
yeah,
that would certainly overtake that of the worthless, stupid, let's just say, not just worthless, but unsustainable paper. You know what I
yeah, the
mean?
paper. No, the paper is not going to be valuable no matter how many millions of dollars that you hold.
Oh, it's
You know,
got a long history of such a long history of failure. I think it was there was the claim. I'm pretty sure it would have been true, but apparently the United States did hit hyperinflation. It must have been like what 1781 or something like that. I can't remember, but it was. If I remember right, I would have to look it up again. But I think there was a point in American history where they did hit hyperinflation at one point. Um, that's the thing about paper. It really is not something sustainable at all.
yeah, because I was gonna say like throughout the United States quote unquote existence, like all this, you know, government expansion of trying to like expand their political infrastructure to like, you know, go to other countries and create all these conflicts, like all this debt has a massive burden to attack the people that are going to have like a big hefty, you know, hyperinflation fine to them. So it's like, you know, all this wealth that has been, expropriated from other people, from the people within, and then from people globally overseas. Like that is a big red flag to cause a lot of civil war divide, where those people that do see their money becoming more worthless due to the state using it for bad means, like that's a self-destructive means to like hold people back to make them more poor over time. Because
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, like the U.S. dollar is a lot more or less valuable throughout the existence of it, starting from the 1700s heading into now. And the average American, like to my best guess, is at least 85% more poor with the dollar, because that value has now become far more less marketable
Yeah.
to
100%.
yeah.
Just look at the difference. Even that post I put up there, it must have been the other day there. I seen that in 1980, a Big Mac burger in the United States was what, 50
Like
cents.
less than $2. Yeah,
Aye,
yeah,
50
50 cents.
cents. 0.50, 50 cents for a Big Mac meal. And the burger was about, what was it? Was it 40% larger or something like that? It says, I can't remember the post it.
Yeah, the portion size was like a lot bigger when you go to McDonald's back in the 1950s.
Aye,
But then, yeah,
and so in other words, you were basically getting more for 50 cents, and you're getting far less for $8. Is it
yeah,
$8?
Big Mac for the sandwich alone is at least like $6, if not, due to like other states' inflation, it's like $7 to $8 for a Big Mac.
Aye, because after work I had went to the McDonald's the day, and I think I can't even remember what this other burger was or something like that. It was more than £9, man. That was like the meal, like
£9.
more than £9. It's like, what the fuck?
So that's at least like $15. Yeah, that's 15.
I think because I paid for a salad which was at £2.99 or something like that, and I think I had paid for the other stuff, and it came to about 16 odd in total or something. I can't even remember, but that's just insane because
That's
see,
insane. I could just go to Publix and just buy me something way
I
cheaper.
honestly, that's true. You could see going back what, more than a decade ago. I would say more than 15 years ago. It used to cost what, £5 or something, £5 or £6 for these meals. Now they've jumped up to about £3 or £4 now. It's unreal.
Yeah, like I used to pay a lot of groceries that were like processed foods for like well over like $150+ for like what I used to spend. But nowadays, like I buy everything like basically fresh. So like I just cook everything from scratch, and I'm only paying less than, I say, like $60, if not maybe $50, on a cheap day.
Aye.
So it's like the groceries have gotten way worse, because it's like, you having to pay for that particular meal at a local McDonald's is far more expensive, and
Mhm.
it's 10 times more expensive just getting like a complete meal at a grocery store. If you go to Walmart, Publix, or if you go to Hannaford, like all those stores are super expensive.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's exactly what inflation has caused.
Yeah, it's like a
And,
big robbery.
and
Just
that's the
take like
thing
a big
because
bat and smack
even for someone like myself, because I don't mind, because I'm obviously I want to get back obviously to the gym and do mainly my weightlifting and things like that. And you know yourself, soon it comes to things like weightlifting, you need to take more protein and things like that. All
you.
that
Yeah.
stuff comes at a cost. You know yourself, it comes at a cost. You're paying a lot of money just for to try and keep your protein up and for lifting weights and things like that.
Yeah,
And
it's not even like, no, like you don't have to do that. get these weight gains, bro. Just eat all these crazy, expensive meats just to get, super buff at the gym.
It's crazy. It's just the fact that it's how much everything costs, and it's inflation caused that.
Yeah. I was also gonna ask you uh do you think inflation causes people that are like a lot more like younger to be less responsible with their money, because as inflation kills their pockets more, it seems that the people that are young and dumb that doesn't understand the life of economic survival, they end up becoming more self-dependent to say, I need somebody to do this for me. You need to you need to bring me to the store and buy me this and buy me that, versus like if you knew how to budget and you knew how to like spend your money a lot smarter, you don't need to be acting like this. And I think
I'm
that's
not. I'm not sure. I wouldn't really say it's inflation that causes that as such. What I would say that it is down to, however, is, I mean, okay, inflation has stemmed from all the government borrowing and expenditure. I would say it's more down to the fact that it's because they believe in all that dependency upon government. So they believe government should do this, government should do that, government should do this, that, and the next thing. Mere government expenditure, whether it's infrastructure or whatever the hell it is, they believe in so much dependency. Now, why they've become so incompetent? Well, you think about it this way. See if you were in a position where you lived in a free market economy and you were fully responsible for your own money and you faced a risk of losses, you're going to be more cautious over how you spend your own money because you don't have that safety net. Therefore, contrary to what people believe, it was actually that government subsidies and safety net and welfare and all that social security, all the government being the provider of this, that, and the next thing. It was all because the government being that so-called safety net that took away that personal responsibility, and that is what led people to being irresponsible and spending uh, recklessly or whatever.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I think the more uncontrolled spending that any nation state does to disincentivize people to be irresponsible with their money causes a very lazy population that demands more social welfare services, and then eventually over time those people don't end up becoming product they don't become more productive, they become less productive, and then
Yeah,
you create that very destructive society where a lot of people use welfare to destroy other people's financial well-being.
that's true.
Yeah.
That's just certainly happens.
Yeah. um yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I just wanted to kind of ask about those things with you because like they've been on like my mind lately, and I was like thinking like all these like current events that's been going on with like Donald Trump and all that has been quite interesting. So yeah, I definitely like to do this again because this has been pretty fun. So
Aye, 100%, Paul. That's for sure. I'm mostly free, like I say, I'm mostly free anyway when it comes to it. I mean, although at the current moment, I'm currently only doing a sort of 8 hour sort of contract, but my contract will change after September. I think my contract will be probably about 16 to 20 odd hours. And plus the fact I try to do whatever I do in between then, because, well, I've been going through my driving lessons and that. But other than that, you know, I should be free, like any times after when I'm working in that. You know what I mean? Because it's like I work like 4 hours, rather than the full 8 hours a day shift sort of thing. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
whenever I'm free of that.
Okay. Yeah, this seems like a really fun job to do, doing photography.
Well, at the current moment, that's the thing for retail. But in terms of my photography, once I get my driving uh, license, then it's pushing on with my photography 100%.
Hey, if I see you on the magazine cover for Entertainment Today, I'll definitely support it. Hollywood contacts you, be like, hey, Scott, like we like your photography, like we want to pay like $3 million for this. Yeah,
What
yeah,
I would do with $3 million is probably make a campaign against the big beautiful bill.
that would be hilarious. Yeah. Um. Yeah, I guess that's pretty much it. Like, if you got anything that you like to say, or like if you want to, like, like share like your channel, I can like post it, like
Yeah, I
wherever.
mean, at the current moment, I've still got all my YouTube videos there on my Libertarian Scott channel. All my videos are still there in that, and I had spoken to someone uh, recently. Had wondered if I was getting back to videos. Yeah, I probably will get around to it soon at some point. It's been on my mind in that, it has been. Um, I've just been concentrating on, things like my driving lessons and things like that. But I certainly will get around to that, no doubt.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, I wanted to bring up with you about that one YouTuber that I wanted you to like do a. Hello. Oh. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know what happened. Okay. Yeah, I was trying to say that there was that one YouTuber that I was trying to bring up to you that I wanted to see you do a show with. His name was Fabian Liberty. His name is Scott, but he has a pretty good channel. He does like a lot of collaborations with other libertarian minded YouTubers, and I think that would be like a pretty good show for you to like talk with him about you know his ideas and your ideas. I think that would be like a really good show, to have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm also because I've been saving up for some of the other things. I've also been thinking about getting the Rode microphone things that they're wireless for the sake of when I'm doing videos and stuff like that. Because I'll end up doing videos as well for my photography when it does come to it. That's another thing. But yeah, I will certainly get around to that.
Okay, yeah. Um, yeah, like I'll definitely support it. Like whatever you got going on. I'll share it. I'll share it like around, and you know, like I'm definitely always like interested looking at that type of stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, well, thank you very much, and I definitely like to do this again. I had like a lot more other topics that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't want to bring that in and have like a long conversation. And plus, I'm pretty sure it's pretty late over there, so I don't want to.
Sorry.
It's not late. I thought it's like 10 p.m. over there, or at
It's
least
like
like
I
a
say, I mean, in terms of it's after 10 or whatever, but I mean, like I say, I'm no, because the fact I'm not working or that tomorrow, so that's the main thing. It's, you know, again, it'll been 4 hours on the Monday, plus I've put myself down for a few days for the overtime next week, so that's that.
okay, yeah. Yeah, like I definitely will like to do another show. Because like I wanted to like talk about some other topics that came onto like my mind. But I'll just save that for like another day. And yeah,
Nice, that's no problem.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess I'll see you later. And if you got any last words, go for it.
Yeah, it's been good, obviously, talking to yourself and that, and you know, I'm more than confident that things will head in the right direction. I think we're going to see, you know, that more people will become disillusioned by what's happening with Trump. They'll become disillusioned with the two-party system over there. I think it's the same thing that's happening here with the whole thing that's led to the reform. You're seeing that. Um, I think you're going to slowly and gradually see change in the fact of what's happening with Melee. If he manages to clear inflation, like I said, if he keeps on that track, you know that's going to be a massive, massive impact, and it will lead to, I believe, change over time. You know, because there'd be no way that anybody could turn around and say, "Oh well, it's a failure," because you know you get the point. So, aye, pretty much what we discussed. So, yeah, uh, definitely speak about more stuff next time and that.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun, and this was a great conversation. I definitely need these conversations to get rid of all my confusion and all the crazy rambling people like to say over the internet. So
I can understand that, Paul.
alrighty, yeah. Well, thank you very much, and until next time.
Right, see you later, Paul.
All right, I'll see you later, Scott. Thank you. Have a good night.
Right, see you.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you very much. This is a pretty good show. Not my not my typical standard type of show. Yep, I'm back. Sorry about that. I just disconnected my camera. But yeah, not my typical standard show that I always do. Sometimes I do a little bit of like political conversations with people like Scott because I sometimes need to hash that out, and I always like bringing ideas of a philosophy to the channel. But yeah, I definitely had a good time, and don't worry, I will be covering the post fight with Amanda Serrano versus Katie Taylor, part 3 rematch, and I'll talk about all the female fights. I'll definitely credit that into the picture, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll probably I don't know, like I don't mind doing the post fight tomorrow. I'll probably just talk about all the cards tomorrow, and then I'll also post up the videos tomorrow because I have like a bunch of YouTube shorts that I put into my channel for all the boxing fights that I cover. That's what I have been doing a lot with my viewership. I've just been posting a lot of YouTube shorts again, so definitely stay tuned for that. That's what I have been doing to kind of keep myself active because the only reason why I don't post as many YouTube videos in terms of like content for like what I do, whether it's gaming and stuff like that, is just simply because of what the time and effort. I can always post like a video here and there to kind of like give you like some like gaming documentary, well, some gaming commentary videos, in which I'll probably post some videos about that very soon. So like if I have something that's like on my mind and I just want to like post some gameplay while talking, to the audience, I'll definitely do that because I'm probably gonna do a Mortal Kombat video because I'm gonna talk about MK1 and I'll talk about other games, you know, that are coming into the future, like Call of Duty Black Ops 7, or we have like other games that will come into light soon. Yeah, I got plenty of great ideas coming, so be sure to stay tuned for that. I will have the boxing live stream tomorrow with Katie Taylor and Amanda said I'll probably do that early in the morning. I'll get that out the way, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I will play the outro. I don't think I could play it because like I guess that the dumb policy with StreamYard is like I have the free version, and it's probably not gonna like let me like play my other videos. So I'm gonna try it, and if not, I'm just gonna screen share it and then I'll just play it for you guys. Okay, yeah. So I can't do that. So yeah, that's pretty stupid. Yeah. So I can't really you know do what I want to do and share that. So yeah, what I'll do is I'm going to give you guys my video of the outro. I'm gonna screen share it. So hold on, I got the video file right here. So uh, I'll just do that. If you guys don't want to give me what I need, then so be it. I got the backups. So I always try to make sure that I have backups. So I always kind of give myself backup videos in case anything like this happens. But yeah, here we go. I got the outro right here. Hopefully it works. So I'm gonna try it right now. Okay, hold on. All right. Okay. So hold on. I'm gonna remove myself and then I'm gonna add this to the stage, and then I'll be right back and then I'll end the show. Okay. All right. All right. There it is. But yeah. Pretty much. I'll be out and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, that kind of sucks that StreamYard doesn't give me the ability to do that, so I have to like pay for it, which really sucks. So, yeah, I'll definitely be back, and be sure to stay tuned for more content. Sorry that I wasn't able to do my intro for anybody that was watching earlier, so I'll try to have like a little backup for that. I'm gonna just probably just play let the song and then just kind of like make it easier for you guys. So yeah, that's what I'll do, and I'll see you guys soon. All right, thank you very much. Peace out. Bye. And don't worry, there's also boxing tonight for Edgar Balanga versus Hamza Shiraz, and there's Pro Box TV fight card for Vladimir Hernandez versus Fernando Bebu Vargas. Yeah, that's that Argentinian dude that fought on. He fought some other good high level, competition at 154. I think it was up on. Well, he fought on overtime, and he fought on top rank. He fought Jahai Tucker from the past. So, yeah, that's gonna be a good fight tonight. I'm definitely looking forward to that. So, yeah, I'm excited for tonight's fights. So, all right, I'll see you guys later. Peace out. Have a great day, and until next time, live, live free. Have a have a good day, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Bye.